that's also an example of expanding your scope, expanding your role. You're reaching out, you're thinking about how can we do this differently. A great opportunity is if you have a colleague peer who runs a department in the next city over or something like that, and that position becomes vacant. Now they're takeover target. You can go after them. Think entrepreneurial and go do some. That's what's going on now.
Exactly. It's huge, and it is huge. It's an opportunistic kind of change, but it also one that, yeah, it works.
Well, we've hit the noon mark, and we're trying to wind up our meeting so you can have lunch, and I know Mike has another appointment. So I think we'll stop here, and I just ask you all. Okay, you can take 5 more minutes, so if there are some questions, I'm not going to just stand up and holler loud with your questions so that we can hear up here. Got a question? That's
I have a comment. It's one of those really great directors. From the rec side, because I'm not a rec specialist, and we call it community services now, their concern rightly is they have this person that knows nothing coming in and directing them. On the other side, the library folks just think it's just a bad idea in general because we just don't like change. I mean, a lot of us don't. So what I say to both is we're now a big department. We're right behind Public Works. It's Public Safety, Public Works, and now us. And that's very compelling. And it's harder to break you up. It's harder to, you have more of a presence. My budget's been tripled. And so that's the kind of thing that maybe politically, maybe some might not get, but I get, and maybe some in my department eventually will get that now it's got, if you're a bigger player, you've got a little more say when you go to council. So.
It's kind of interesting because that kind of points out the perspective of the former departments who become one is, I think they often see winners and losers. Not everybody winning, but I think
that's a good marketing hook. I mean, you're the quality of life people.
Yeah. Just don't call me leisure services.
Yeah, I mean, the cops and the firefighters think they are too, and that's nice, and so do the people that provide water and sewers and all those other things. But the other thing is that another way to construe it is that I like the conjunction of the park and rec facility services serve the physical needs of and the play needs and so on that people have in their communities, that the libraries serve the needs of the mind that people have in their communities to learn and get better, and you put those two together in one system and combine that with community centers, places for people to go and to mix and meet their neighbors and do those things. That's a really powerful kind of new initiative, and all it needs is a little bit of a nice name and some good marketing, and voila. So you're on the right track.
Other questions?
I fully appreciate the importance of not having excess staff, but I've got to make the cautionary note that you just glossed over, but I'm sure you actually understand it. Simply because an 8-year-old can do it doesn't mean that a 65-year-old can.
Yes?
Well, just a quick note. I ain't 65, but damn close. I think, yes, you're absolutely right. And I think in the Richmond situation, what we're trying to do is spin out that circulation. We just added 30 personal computers out right in the front there in the main when you walk in. For us, that's new. We had 10 before, so we have 30. There's no one there to assist those folks in using those computers. Now, what I'm looking at it is, that's our greeter. That's our person who says, welcome to the library, glad you're here. I'll run back there and take your fine and do your thing. But to train those people to use those computers, train those people to use those systems and service them. And it's got to be the right person. They've got to have a how can I help you attitude. But that is their job. And so from my perspective, it's that effectiveness. And how do we really provide service? Because just sitting there, slumped down behind the chair when nobody's in line, so what? I'm sorry, so what is my question. And the reference folks, at least in our library, they're sitting there, they're doing collection development, so they're reading books, or they're checking the internet, and I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying the efficiencies that they could provide, I think, to the community and serve that public better Richmond, a lot of our patrons need extra help. They don't have PhDs. They're not coming in there because they, are looking on the latest rocket science stuff. They need to learn how to use a computer. They need to learn how to use a library. They need someone to outreach to them. So that's really more my thrust, is freeing them up to do other things.
But there's a leadership advocacy thing that's also a need, and it's especially hard to do, which is this, that when know-nothingism takes over in decision-making in your enterprise, when politicians just sweep of the hand without regard for the details that you're hollering about, make dumb decisions, and skinny down your workforce so much, but insist that you keep all the branches open, and insist that the appearances all be in place, and you know that it's not getting done. The leader has to stand up to that and has to make the case effectively about what the consequences are. One of the departments that we're working with currently in a government that's really been slashed is a park department that's responsible for 12,000 acres. Prior to all the reductions, they had a large number of part-time employees that they used on a seasonal basis to maintain that acreage. They had a staff of 54 full-time folks, actually it was more than that, 75 full-time folks, and about 200 FTE of part-time, which is how they did the seasonal work that needed to be done to maintain that system. Well, the politicians had no problem stripping out the part-timers because they weren't a member of the union, and they could, they're gone. So this department is down to 54 full-time people, and all the FTE part-timers are gone. And it's like, at some point the leaders need to stand up and say, people, this does not work. You've got to, if you got to shrink it, we got to shrink it, but you have to make the case for that. It is, and the reason I said it's so hard is that, I want to be a positive leader. I don't want to be a negative kind of person. I don't want to say to the elected officials who are grappling with very hard problems that we can't do it. Rather, I'd like to be able to show them how to do it, but at some point you have to stand up to them on behalf of your institution and make your factual case. And that's a hard road to hoe.
So I think we will cut it off here. So I just have a couple of final reminders. One is that on next Saturday, the 21st, I think you've all received invitations to the PLP breakfast. If you haven't RSVP'd, we'd appreciate it, because otherwise you might be at the breakfast without a meal. And Linda, did you have something you were?
Wednesday at Ledge Day.
And Ledge Day next Wednesday. Again, it's not too late to register. I will do that when I get back to the office. And I hope to see a bunch of you in Sacramento. Hey, Karen.
Jane, just for the newbie, the breakfast, is that primarily staff focused? Does that include the boards?
No, it is a tradition that died and has been reorganized just for 1 year. It's living again one per year. But generally we invite our commissioners, our council members, or those council members who are particularly interested in library matters. It's in Menlo Park, so on a Saturday morning, so people kind of just vote with their feet. And so do feel free to share those invitations. Also, senior staff from libraries come, SAB members, it's kind of a fun time to see people. Okay, with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn. So moved, second, in favor, and please stay for lunch. All in favor? Thank you very much.